Yes, hello, this is Danhausen here, very nice for evil, and you are listening to Bob After Dark. Subscribe or be cursed.
From Mothman and Nessie to the spirit that haunts your home, welcome to Bob After Dark, a podcast about legends, lore, and the supernatural. So turn your lights down and your volume up and enjoy your trip to the shadows.
Oh, hey there, everyone. Welcome to Bob After Dark, the show that takes you in the shadows and goes and says, hello, everything that goes bump in the night. I'm your host with the most that enjoys toast, Bob, and alongside of me, as always, is my ever wonderful, ever vampiric, and ever cape-wearing producer, and the heartthrob of Bob After Dark. Can't forget that part. Count Panic himself. Oh, hey there, Count Panic.
Oh, hey, Bob. Yes, back here on another great episode of Bob After Dark. It's you, Bob, and you're here after dark. That's how we got the name, I think, you know?
You've never introduced a show like that before?
I'm giddy for the show, Bob. We got first off, we got your watch on the Jed TV. You notice it's a different desk. It's actually like this is a real desk, Bob.
I have a real desk.
Not that little desk we had.
No, I legitimately, for the first time in years, feel like I'm a talk show host.
Yeah, you're like you're up there with the greats. Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, David Letterman.
I think I would be like the David Letterman of the paranormal.
Oh, there you go. Now you have his desk.
Now I have his desk. We just need a live band.
We could probably work on that.
Oh, my God. Yeah, the studio audience.
Well, hey.
We have a studio audience this week, too. Everything's coming up Bob now.
Your mom's in the studio audience
My mom was super excited about tonight's topic, so she came out to support.
Well, she's supporting in the next room over there.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
So, Count, we have a really cool episode this week.
Yeah.
And I will preface this by saying, once upon a time ago, a long time ago, your lovely host here went to college.
You did?
I did, and I went for 4 years and got a college degree from what was then called Purdue University Calumet, but it's not called that anymore.
Change the name.
Yes, I had a degree in, what was it? The technical term was communications broadcasting with a minor in visual communications, but I just call it a film degree.
Nothing wrong with that, Bob. I mean, we could listen. Does anybody really check up on this? I don't know.
Yes. Well, I mean, I do. You can go look it up. I have my degree hanging up in my room.
It is next to your doctrine.
Not yet. Working on it.
Working on it.
Work on my doctorate in cryptozoology.
Here we go.
That's the next goal starting next year.
Yeah. Okay. I'm all in.
But anywho, you went to college too.
I did. We overlapped
several hundred times in your
several ages ago. I went to college.
In your thousands of years of life. But one of your stints in college was also at a Purdue University Calumet, majoring in the same thing I did.
Same thing at the same time.
At the same time, and we graduated out together, and that's how we've met, and that's how we got the show together. But that does relate to something. I promise I'm not just going on a random.
It all ties into this episode.
It all ties into this episode because Count has two guests for me. I did not. This is the first time in history that I didn't seek out the guests.
No,
this is amazing.
I got the. Well, I shouldn't say. I'm not going to take the credit here, Bob. I'm going to give the credit to young. By the way, we are on the campus of Purdue Northwest, so it kind of fits the whole atmosphere. But I got to credit one of Purdue's finest. Luke Miller. Luke with two eyes. Not in Luke, but in Miller. There's no two eyes in Luke.
What?
There's two eyes in Miller, though.
How do you spell Luke with two eyes?
Well, no, it's in the Miller part. M-I-I-L-L-E-R. Not the Luke doesn't have two eyes. But he walked up to me one day and said, boy, there's this great class at Purdue that's starting here. It's a course on vampires. That'd be kind of cool for Bob. And I was like, Luke, that's a fantastic idea. And he got the ball rolling. He sent some initial email out. And that's how we got to this very moment here today, Bob.
And they teach it at our old alma mater.
A course on vampires. I'm going to learn about my culture here tonight.
You are going to learn about your culture, and not the Polish pierogi type, but the...
I'm a Polish vampire.
You are a Polish vampire, but you're learning about your vampire culture today.
Yeah, my roots.
Gentlemen, welcome to Bob After Dark.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, and just because Count introduced you guys doesn't mean
I didn't say the names yet.
You
Bob.
did? Oh, I thought you did. You said Luke Miller.
Well, yeah,
but
but
Luke with two eyes.
He got the
All right,
ball rolling.
so let's start by introducing you guys. Gentlemen, who are you?
I'm Justin Ness. I teach literature and writing at PNW, so I'm doing the literary side of this vampires course.
And I'm Jim Hysell. I do history at PNW, and I'm teaching the lore side.
Wow.
That's absolutely amazing. So let's start from an academic point of view. How does one sit down and say, I am going to co-junk teach a class about vampirism at a legitimate university? Because this sounds like something that I would probably be taking in my my parapsychology courses, not at normal Purdue. But here I am talking to two gentlemen that have that are teaching at Purdue a vampirism course. So how does that happen?
We were actually asked to do it.
Oh,
So the chair of our collective, the same chair, both departments, asked us to do this course. Asked us if we'd be interested in co-teaching a course on it. So I've taught a couple courses on horror film. Jim has taught a course, at least one course on
Magic and witchcraft and religion. Yeah.
You also had violence in the 19th century, and
Women in violent crime.
yeah.
This is all Purdue?
Yeah.
Wow.
Take your intro to photography and be happy with it. That's what we got.
I didn't see this on the list, Bob.
No, I did not. Back when, like I said, back in my day, my electives were take your intro to photography, and then creative writing with Professor Doverstein. That was a name I'll never forget because he was the hardest teacher I ever had. Those were my electives. I would have been signed up for every course you were teaching as time progressed, but I unfortunately got to miss that one. So, is the department head specifically really interested in vampires and said this is what you should teach, or?
So Dr. Lin does specialize in a lot of academic and esoteric history, and he has done a lot of work on magic in general. And the actual magic witchcraft class is his baby. He made it. He got it into the program. And I taught it because he was unavailable one time. He had gotten called up to be a dean, which is kind of his jam. He gets called up to be dean.
That sounds like a future guest there, Count Bannon.
Maybe. So. But I'm just, this is just kind of amazing. So you guys obviously met through Purdue, or did you knew each other before that?
Obviously.
Okay, I guess everybody meets at Purdue. And you're like, and then together you were like, wow, let's we all both like these the lore and literature of vampires. Let's do a course on it. Let's and then they came to you about it, and then it rolled. One big rolling as one.
Yeah.
Sounds like, wow.
Yeah,
Bob, we got to go back to college. Can we take this? Can we take this course somewhere? Can
I mean,
outside
we got
people
3
take this
weeks
course?
left of the semester, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
I mean, if you want the reading list, we can always give it to you.
Well, hey, let's.
Count doesn't know how to read.
Vampires don't read that much. I guess. Well, not my kind of vampires, but so what's normal class look like then? It's a full-on course then, of course.
Of course.
The course.
Yes.
Yeah. But what's a class look like?
So we split up the week. Most weeks, it's a Monday, Wednesday course. On Mondays, there's generally a reading. Right now, we're doing an interview with Vampire Anne Rice, and we're into I want to say third section, but for Anne Rice, third section is different. It's like the third set of 90 pages, since Anne Rice doesn't like chapters. And her parts are very not equal, so that's not great for signing readings. But anyway, we're halfway through interview with the vampire, and so we talk about. So this past Monday, I guess it was yesterday. Oh my God, this has been a very long day.
Every day of mine is a very long day, so trust me, I get it.
So we had a great conversation talking about Claudia and Louis' relationship, trying to unearth the tensions between Louis and Lestat, trying to figure out why Lestat's always angry, and looking at the way that Anne Rice is really delving into this vampire lore, this vampire myth in a much more thorough fashion than had been done previously. Just looking at the implications of things. Anyways, it leads to a great discussion. I'll also talk about fiction things, how fiction's structured. And then on Wednesdays...
Yeah, I come in. I've done a lot of work with the folklore. We have one book that's really good. It's called Death, Burial, and Vampires. And that really lays out where a lot of the folklore of vampires comes from. And then I've got some articles and standalone lectures that I've done. So last Wednesday we dealt with serial killers who've been associated with vampirism. And then tomorrow we're going to be going over an article dealing with something called Banyama, which are the vampire men of Central Africa.
Yes.
Did you hear about that, Bob?
Me and you have done an episode about
Did we? I got to go back in the database and watch
It's
that.
in there somewhere, yes.
Wow.
It's definitely in there.
Oh.
So that's absolutely amazing on a grand level that you guys are teaching this. And how popular is the course?
Popular.
Yeah, we had a full class really quickly.
Really?
And we had to raise the cap, and we...
How many students?
So it was 34. We had one drop a few weeks in, but yes, we have 33 students. They wanted us to teach way more, which is... It would have been silly. So both of our teaching styles is that we like to know the individual students.
Yeah.
So we don't like these huge lecture halls. We're just, I don't know, speaking to the unwitting masses. Like we like to interact with our students and have most of our classes are discussion based.
And in a close setting like that, you get more. I mean, you know, like you mentioned, lecture hall is just huge. You never know the students' names, but so this sounds like it's pretty popular, and it could probably continue on here in Purdue. I mean, would you guys be willing to continue on with it? I guess
I would.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a blast.
And you guys enjoy it too. It's obviously you want to teach what you enjoy. I mean, if you were up there lecturing about the history of potatoes or something like that.
What do you got against potatoes?
Well, you know what? You're right. Potatoes do get a bad rap in history. I mean,
Yeah.
I was
Bob,
about to say,
Fries,
first
scalloped
off,
potatoes,
sir,
yeah.
broccoli. The history of broccoli.
stop where you're at right there, too. I love
Broccoli?
broccoli. Yes.
Okay.
I
you
also
pick-
really enjoy food history, so you're really hitting
This isn't going
Why
my
are these
way.
all about food?
Welcome to Bob After Food. Trust me, some of the fans out there wish I would have changed the show to Bob After Sandwich. Is somebody that wanted me to change the name of the show to a while ago, but it was silly. But so yes, we've talked about food, our fair share of food on the show before. But Count, can you pick a more boring topic?
Broccoli?
You're picking the wrong things here. Your joke's offending me.
I think we get the point.
I'm offended.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I offended the potato color.
just
Said the
joking.
potato color. You offended me.
I like a good tater tot, like the French
That's
fry.
the hash browns. It's the
Hash
most
browns?
versatile
It
food
is.
on the planet.
But I'm
You're
just
over
saying,
there being
think about
like,
learning about it, Bob. You probably be like, man, I wish I was learning about vampires right now instead of potatoes.
And
That is
potato
a-
famines.
That is
Yeah.
that is a great, first off, that is a bold assumption, and
Choose your.
I resent that remark.
Would you rather learn about potatoes or we'll talk about that later. But the class is widely popular. People are dying to get in it, sounds like here, if I may use that expression. But, the fact of the matter is so many people are into vampires, but they don't know that history. They don't know that lore, and this is where you guys come in. Now, are there, tests and quizzes on vampires? It's a real class, so of course there's tests and quizzes, correct?
Yeah, we had a midterm. We have reading quizzes.
Oh, see?
Got to research.
Got to research.
paper.
Yeah, you can't just
No.
gonna fly on by it like a vampire bat during these courses.
Oh,
here.
see, that's a good joke.
You like that one?
That was
Okay.
that was a good joke.
I'll save it.
I'll take that
Put
one.
my database there. But Bob's mom too. She's fascinated by all this stuff, and she had a great question. Throughout so much of the history of time, a lot of great film adaptations of vampires out there. What are yours? And she's dying to hear this answer too. What are some of your personal favorites as far as adaptations go of vampires?
I'll let you start, Hysell.
Okay. I've got 3 that kind of came to my mind, and they're all different in the type of vampire that they are. So my favorite, just straight up vampire, the actor is David Boreanaz on Angel and Buffy the Vampire Slayer when he's Angelus. Not when he's Angel. Angel's kind of mopey and boring, but Angelus is delightfully evil, and I really enjoy him. The other is another one is Wesley Snipes' Blade.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the Blade movies. I think they're phenomenally fun, if not good films. And then my last one is Matthew Berry as Laszlo on What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
Queen of the Night just screamed out loud and yelped at that response.
that's a modern day take then, a modern day vampire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my three.
Those are interesting choices. Those are very interesting choices.
Well,
And
thank
I'm
you.
not going to judge you too hard about a couple of them.
Are you wait now? No, you can controversial here.
No.
Who are you singling out?
I'm not singling out anybody.
Blade?
We're moving on here.
Okay.
We have another guest that didn't give their response.
I think Bob's dissing Blade here, but okay.
I first off, I would never diss Blade. What was your first one again?
It's David Boreanaz as in Jealous.
That's the one I didn't know which take I wanted to go with that when we have a caller on the line.
We do. Before we get another take here, let's take a phone call. 219-845-1100. We are live here, so feel free to call in 219-845-1100. First call here.
I'm assuming this is John, but it might not be.
Oh, hey there, Bob.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey
this
there,
is
John. How you doing? I thought so.
Yeah, you know what? I'm watching a game here, and I'm listening to your two guests, and I'm kind of very surprised. I mean, I didn't know that PNW offered these classes. So, how is this something new there, gentlemen, or you guys been doing this for a few years? How long have you been teaching these classes?
Well, these classes, the various classes on horror themes, we've been teaching them for a few years. We're not the only ones, as Hysell mentioned. Dr. Lin created the myth, magic,
Witchcraft, magic, and religion.
Yeah. But the vampires course and our co-teaching it, that's new. That's a bit of experimental.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Like I said, I'm kind of really surprised that. I mean, in general, are you guys well known that?
We're so famous. Oh my God.
Well, like I said, I would have no idea that this is being, and this is great. I'm into that too, but I'd have no idea that this is being taught at the university, and I just wonder how many people in the region know that this is being taught there. And you know what? Do you have? And this might be a stupid question, but are your classes a requirement for any major or anything
That would be
like that?
awesome.
That's
Oh
a
my
great
God.
question. Can we get the
Okay,
esoteric
No.
degree at Purdue University?
Or can a 70-year-old guy like me enroll and take your classes?
I mean, if you want
It's
to,
a
you
serious
probably
question,
could.
Yeah.
So-
That would be amazing if our class were required for
Yeah.
anything.
That'd be
But no.
that'd be crazy if one person that needed to graduate couldn't pass the vampire class, and that's how they
So
didn't get
then,
their diploma.
your classes are open to anybody? Then you're saying is this like a night?
Anyone
Is it-
enrolled.
Is this offered during the day or night or both?
It's a vampire class.
John,
so it's
who's
at
going
night.
to take a vampire class during the day?
It's during the day.
It is for safety purposes.
Well, I don't know.
obviously.
That's why I'm asking, because you know what, I might be interesting for the next year or something.
You could,
know?
but for a class, anybody could just enroll in a class. Or can they? I'm not sure how that works.
Do you have to enroll in the school? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But can't you just take the class and drop out?
What?
Maybe.
I mean,
We'll look into it, John.
I did hear that there is like a community opportunity to take courses. I don't know anything about it specifically, but I do know that people can look into that.
Okay, so the students you got now are they are taking other classes there, right or wrong,
Yeah,
or are they
they are.
specifically? They are. Okay, so it's. But do they get credit to their?
Yeah,
do they get credit for those classes to their majors, or is this something that is like on the side?
So for us, the course will either count as a history course or a literature course for the students.
Okay. That's very interesting. Very. Yeah, I don't think too many people would know that's going on. That's great. So, yeah, I'll continue listening, and thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John, for
Hey,
calling.
you guys, Bob, you have a happy Easter, you and your family,
I
okay?
certainly will, John. Thanks
And
for
you
calling
guys
in.
too. All right, thanks.
There we go. All right, there's John, 219-845-1100. Now let's get back to your favorite vampires there in history.
So specifically filmic?
Ooh. Now you're asking. Well, let's.
Hey, this is your question.
We
Guy,
go.
you stole
Well,
it from me. So
well, no,
I'm
your
not-
mom.
I'm
I stole it from your
mom stole it from me, and then you hijacked it.
Well, what if-
So this is on you,
How about-
buddy. I'm this
Well,
panic after
you
dark
could
now.
add a few more to the list. if you
I'm
want
just
to.
going to sit back.
No. I'm talking about
no, you're
the
good.
vampire questions here. So yeah, you could add any one you really want to. You stumped them.
Well, I mean, it's so the favorite in what capacity? So
Well,
Lord
film, literature, anything.
Lord Ruthven is fascinating just because of the historic place that he holds. Also, the fact that he was made as a means of making fun of Lord Byron.
Yes.
I think that's pretty funny. And and the fact that it became so influential. But so that kind of accident within literature fascinates me. There's, I mean, it's a silly answer, but like the obvious one, but Dracula, because of how like by 1897, I mean, there are a lot of claims that Dracula based his. Bram Stoker based his vampire off of Carmilla, or off of Lord Ruthven, or off of Varney, or even off of Vlad Tepes. But really, like, he took little things from each of them, but he contributed so much. Before Anne Rice, like, he was the mastermind who delved into this mythos within this like fictional capacity. I love seeing how various people, directors and writers, take this singular character and transform him. Like, what do they decide to use in their adaptations?
There's so
what
many
they
out
omit.
there.
There are so many.
Yeah.
And whether some of the adaptations, whether they're legal or not. It just creates a really fun history of literature.
And that is required reading. I learned from Luke Miller at Two Eyes, who I believe is listening right now. As shout out to Luke. You got to read Bram's Dracula there in the for the course.
We finished that up before spring break. It is a great novel.
So what about nobody mentioned Bela Lugosi, which is like their.
You didn't. He still had one more to go.
Oh, okay. Is that your
have
final
to be
one?
3?
He
I mean,
said-
so I was just going with fictional literary
We could do a third, yeah.
characters. I mean, oh goodness gracious.
We could circle back.
I don't know. I think maybe. So this is. So I'll say Geraldine from Christabel, Samuel Taylor Coleridge.
Oh, wow, okay.
So 1816 poem. It's only 2 cantos. He never finished it.
Going way back.
Well, only a few years before Lord Ruthven, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, part of that is because I like that it's unfinished. She is so mysterious, absolutely the predecessor for Carmilla, absolutely the inspiration for that. But also, Hysell and I just had an assignment, well, I just had like a few weeks ago. It's my job to grade it. I'm very slow on this. Where we've had our students finish Christabel. So again, it's a poem. It's not finished, written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and the vampire figure here, female named Geraldine, she's put her, she's very alluring, and she has put Christabel and her father under a certain type of trance that at least Christabel is struggling to get out of it. And then the poem just hits a cliff. Like it just stops. It's obviously not over. But anyway, so we've had our students give their own variations of how it ought to have ended. And the paths that they took are fascinating. So anyway, so I think that there's like a personal element there, just that assignment and seeing how our students have worked with that story particularly has made that one of my favorites.
You know what's interesting, I think, too, is like throughout, every few years or so, we get a new vampire variation, right? Like the last one, like Nosferatu. Even though Nosferatu, oh man, you're shaking your head. We'll get to
no,
it for a second.
that's a good thing.
Oh, that's a good thing.
I
Well, I know
that
that's not a new character in history, but they redid the movie recently, just a few months ago or so. And I take it you both saw the movie.
Yeah.
And you liked it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Screen it for our students as well.
Really, yeah. But you get stuff like that happen, and then there's a whole new spark of interest about vampires. Even to dare I say, I don't know if this could be controversial, Bob. Twilight. The Twilight movies. I mean, that sparked a big new wave of vampires.
Yeah, it definitely sparked something.
Are we a fan of Twilight?
Judgment is high on this one. I'll sip my water on that.
So, I have not read the entire series.
Oh, man.
However, so I understand both perspectives of why some people really love Twilight and why some people really don't like Twilight. It's not like I'm not a huge fan of Twilight, but also my scholarship is sort of rooted in the principle that if a work of fiction is really, really popular, then it's doing something right.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in figuring out what that something is.
And what is it?
I mean, I haven't studied Twilight, so
We'll figure it out.
but if you gave me a few months, I could give you a really good answer.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, like all
That's
the
hypothetical.
during that time, I was True Blood came out on HBO, and that was a hot series. And what was that other one? Vampire Diaries.
Did you just compare True Blood to?
Well, no, I know that's a
man?
grittier, but that came out around the same time too. But that was it's HBO, so it's a lot more gritty.
You're killing me this week.
Fun
I
fact-
haven't even asked any questions.
I know,
yet.
Bob.
You're getting me all flustered.
Fun fact, though, speaking of P&W, script writing class,
Hey.
my group we did True Blood. We wrote a script with True Blood.
Oh,
Bob,
fun.
back to you.
No, you're good.
I just wanted to. I get riled up when we talk about vampires.
No, I
it's my
obviously,
culture, Bob.
It blew my mind that you put Twilight and True Blood in like the same
time period it came out, though.
Yeah.
Same time.
Pepper,
Okay, well, I will not argue with you that,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if you were trying to make a correlation between the two.
No, True Blood was a great series.
Oh, that was fantastic.
I didn't get
Twilight
much
is
of Twilight.
it's a bit much.
Bit much. Sparkly vampires.
Now I'm going to ask you guys this question here shortly. It's actually going to segue into the question. When you start studying what a vampire is, or different cultures' takes on what vampires are, the romantic period of vampirism is just kind of strange when you think of them as these blood-sucking creatures or air-sucking creatures or life-sucking monsters that are, absolutely terrifying, and people legitimately stake people in the hearts when they die, to this day in certain parts of the world, because they believe a vampire is going to come back. And then you go and look at how popular Twilight was, and you're like, that's not a vampire. That's just I don't know. That's just where I'm at. You have to understand, I also study vampirism, and it's like some correlation of a real kind of a deal, and not that. And it's just, it is what it is. I challenge people to not stop at Twilight and go read something or go watch a movie. That's something else.
Well,
That's
Twilight
my
is a
challenge.
movie too.
They could go outside of that realm of Twilight. I challenge them to try something different.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Why is Twilight not a vampire?
Oh,
Or why are
that's
vampires-
fine. There is a lot of how do I put this? Oh, geez, you okay over there? Yeah. Okay. It is. I understand that it's. How do I say this? I understand that Twilight is important because it opened up a lot of people's eyes to the genre, but it is definitely. I think they handled lycanthropy completely wrong. I think that was a big spit in the face to a lot of people out there that study that as a real life thing and as a cultural thing, and I feel like they kind of spit in the face of what that was. I think a lot of the sparkly vampire bits and the romantic side of vampirism was really overplayed in that, because when I think of vampires and romance, as far as I go, is something like the seduction of versus like I'm just going to willingly surrender myself to you as this character, and that's where I'm at with it. I'm trying to be really nice because I know I have fans out there that are really big into Twilight. I will say it's not for me.
No, those are interesting points, though. Yeah, I mean the romantic aspect of vampires is. I mean, it's such an oddity with like this particular mythological creature that this romantic, seductive, sexual nature of
Yes.
it is so integral. Like you can't really. I mean, you can do lots of things with with characters, but if you had a vampire that had no sex appeal, it would be odd.
Well, even the, I mean, just look at the last. I mean, I just mentioned Nosferatu. There's a lot going on in that as far as that element goes. And
now, see, that's to me, that's a vampire romance done correctly. It's not a sensual, happy, thing like that. It's gritty, it's dirty, it's kind of scary in its own right. That's what a vampire creature is. You're not supposed to like them in a sense of like feeling bad for them. But then again, I watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer willingly, so maybe I'm the biggest hypocrite on the planet. All right, we have a caller.
Yeah, we do. Well, before we get the caller, one last thing about Nosferatu. What did you think of his mustache?
Oh, it's so good.
I thought it was great.
You liked his mustache, okay?
I mean, it's historically
he did have a
accurate.
mustache. Well, yeah, that's right. But in that 1920s, they took it off him, I guess, for that part. But
Well, I mean, Dracula has at least one form of Dracula has a mustache, a long white mustache.
he
when
kept
he's
it
in
so
his-
pristine too. I don't know how he did that. we do got a phone call though. 219-845-1100 is the number.
All right, caller, you're on the air.
Dr. Ness, I was going to ask you a couple questions through email,
yes, Luke.
but I figured this would probably be the best way to contact you right now.
Luke Miller with two eyes.
That two
Indeed.
eyes.
2 eyes and 2 L's.
And two
And
L's.
Got to get them both. But you know what? Sticking on the topic of Nosferatu, and Dr. Ness has also taught a horror class before, and one of the first movies that were in that class was the original Nosferatu. And I wonder where that stacks up in the vampire lore as well.
Where it stacks up in vampire lore?
As one
as
of
far
the
as
best
developing-
movies, best literature and whatnot. I mean, that's a classic one. That's the one that brought vampirism to the forefront for a lot of people.
It's true. So that's why I went with vampire characters, because Count Orlok is just Dracula plagiarized. Now, F.W. Murnau did, of course, add some really great elements, like the ending, and I just got done talking about this movie to some people earlier today, and I didn't want to talk about the ending because the ending is awesome. I like the ending of Nosferatu better than the ending of Dracula. But anyway, it is important. So 1922, it's a feature-length film of a vampire as we actually think of it. So Alice Guy, who was Luke could tell you all about because he's taking an advanced history of cinema.
Don't put me on the spot. Hold on.
No, I
3
won't
weeks
make
left.
you. So Alice Guy, she was a French director she became a director at the end of the 19th century, one of the first directors of film. And in 1915, I think she made a film called The Vampire, but it wasn't about a vampire as we think of it. It's about someone who's like sucking, someone's energy and their resources from them. It's not like someone who's immortal. So we have a few films of that nature, but and there are a couple other films that were actually about this. Vampires as we're talking about them, as immortal beings that feed off of blood. There were a couple others that preceded Nosferatu, but those were lost. And Nosferatu was almost lost when Bram Stoker estate sued Prana Films, but thankfully Hollywood didn't care about lawsuits. So
Not enough back then. Well, this one, I've also got another question for you and Dr. Hysell as well, and that, of course, you've got so much interesting information that people and students just don't know in that vampire class. What was the one or two biggest piece of information that you taught that just was very shocking, and people were like, oh, I didn't know that about vampires?
Well, I think for me, I talked about a few historical figures who are associated with vampirism, typically. And the one that I think surprised students the most, they had the hardest time with, and actually kind of pushed back against, was that a lot of the allegations against Elizabeth Bathory are just that, they're allegations. We don't really have evidence that she did anything. And certainly not to the scale that she was accused of. She's accused of killing something like 600 girls and bathing in her blood. And the bathing story comes about 100 years after she's died. And the students who had this image of Elizabeth Bathory as like the bloody countess, they weren't pleased with the historical evidence that presented kind of a contrary element to it. That's the most surprising thing I had.
Honestly, 9 of the 10 most aha moments are from Hysell. So I'm sitting there in class.
Second along, you're like, oh, whatever.
I'm taking notes the entire time he's lecturing. It's very interesting, and the folklore of the vampires is not something that most people are familiar with. So what I'm teaching the literature side is, what they're more aware of, but the getting into vampire literature before Dracula is, I think, been surprising to them, and also the prevalence of homosexuality and how influential that is in vampirism early on. I think that's been the most surprising and I don't pleasantly surprising aspect. I think a lot of students have really identified with that, seeing vampirism as, within fiction at least, as a means of some authors expressing their their difference from society in this particular way that at least in some cases is coded so that people recognize it. So
yeah, there's definitely those parallels. And Dr. Ness, I wouldn't sell yourself too short. You were pointing out how you were doing research on the other Bob After Dark episodes, and you found you wanted to clear the air that there was a misconception about vampires you previously saw
on this show.
So it was episode 42 or 46. There was a comment about around Dracula was one of where it became aristocratic. The aristocratic aspect with and I don't know. So the aristocratic vampire is fiction. So we do have Vlad Tepes, who is prominent. But other than that, most of our vampires, so in folklore, which Hysell can talk about at much greater length than I can, but they're poor. So we see aristocratic vampires come onto the scene in fiction specifically because Polidori is making fun of Byron, and Byron is Lord Byron. He is an aristocrat, so that's what Lord Ruthven is.
I don't even remember what I said back in 40.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
What did I say?
You were just giving a history over, a general history of the development of fictional vampires, and then you mentioned, then you and the Count were talking about something else, and then you came back to Dracula and said this is the period whenever vampires became aristocratic.
Oh, there we go. Thank you for
He remembers that, I think, yeah.
I will say that one thing that Justin did bring up that kind of shattered a preconception that I had for decades, honestly, and one that my wife was not happy about finding wasn't true, is that Mary Shelley and Polidori did not write their stories on the weekend that they're supposed to have written their stories.
No, they did not.
And that was one of those moments where, it's an anecdote I'd used in presentations about things in the past. And that moment was like, oh no, I've got to go back and correct so many things.
But that's what you're there for, to correct things, right?
Yeah.
And this is the course. So
And admit when we're wrong.
yeah, hey, that's that's the first step, right? Luke, anything?
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
It's getting late for a senior student. I'm going to have to go to bed. But, doing this, got to do the research essays. I just got to get ready. But you know what? I'm going to get the garlic ready. I'm going to get the revolver with the silver bullets loaded. I'm going to have to get ready because I'm a little scared going to bed tonight now.
Oh, you
But you
need
too.
to.
I haven't even started
Interviews.
with the scary bits yet.
The works cited pages need to be done tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
More and more. Oh,
Absolutely.
Thank
the
you.
advanced film history class.
There
Well,
you
yeah,
go.
you all take care.
Thanks,
care.
Luke.
Good
Luke
one.
calling in.
Luke Miller with 2 eyes there, and also too about the whole, this kind of spawned some, right? Vlad the Impaler, which I'm sure you guys referenced there, and people now he's kind of controversial because they say, well, he's not a real vampire. Of course, we get all this legend from him. Do you throw him in there though? I mean, he's the kind of guy that spawned it all, right?
We did a lecture on him. Honestly, it was the most unfortunate day for us to do it because it was one of those like really cold days, so we had to do it over Zoom. But he is a fascinating individual, and a lot of the things about him may be true. We get a lot of these stories while he's alive. And the things that I find most interesting about Vlad in relation to vampirism is that one of his big executions occurs after he digs up the body of his brother who had been murdered by this town. And they had buried him face down, which is the indication of a vampiric burial.
Right.
So they think that he's a vampire. And that's really fascinating. Yeah. You also have the story of him dipping his bread in the blood of victims while he ate in the forest of impaled victims. And the last one, and this one we've got actual physical evidence of, because he talks about crying while writing a letter, and they've looked at the tear stains on the letters he wrote, and it appears that he had a condition that caused blood to appear within his tears. And that, I think, is incredibly fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I know John also had another question here. He texts in. John texts and calls into the show. How about that? He says, in the vampire field, how did you guys really get... Because you're well-versed in a lot of stuff, it seems like here. But as far as the vampire field goes, how did you get started in that? And have you ever been on a paranormal investigation before? So the vampire field, you just interest? I mean, you guys obviously know your stuff, but that's how it kind of all spawned there?
I wouldn't say that I'm in the vampire field.
You teach the course. I'd say you're in the
teach
field.
the course.
Yeah.
I mean, in that case, then I got into the field because I was asked to teach the course. But I've taught horror, taught courses on horror film, and of course, Nosferatu is has to be in there. I mean, also, I don't know. I don't think I would call it a vampire, but also we have Georges Méliès's House of the Devil in 1896, just a short film. He's not sucking anyone's blood, but he's got a cape. He turns into a bat.
That's enough.
I mean, there are things
vampire.
there.
Yeah.
There are illusions. There are references here. So, yeah.
I mean, for me, it's it kind of grows out of other areas of research that I like. I focus a lot on gender and violence in the research that I've done, and vampires are gender and violence in so many ways. And on top of that, this is going to be weird, but my uncle is a horror novelist.
Really?
How cool is that?
Yeah, his name's Mort Castle, and he did a writer's
Cool
annotated
name.
version of Dracula, and he has been a huge influence in my life, just in my interactions with him and seeing him regularly. And because of that, we would always talk about history, and then it would kind of veer into literature. And because he's a horror novelist, it would kind of veer into horror regularly. And that really kind of kept things like vampires at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
He's won the Stoker Award too, right?
Yeah, I think he has two.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
yeah,
Oh my
sure.
God.
That's just a nice thing to throw in there. Yeah, he's won two. Not like winning one's enough. Let's win two of those. That's really cool.
And the second question, paranormal investigating. Are you guys into that?
So I've never gone on an official paranormal investigation or anything along those lines, but in college, I will say there was a rumor that an abandoned asylum near the university that I went to, Eastern Illinois University, was haunted. And on occasional basis, we would drive out to this old abandoned asylum and kind of urban spelunk it and go through it and kind of
course, as one
examine
does.
it.
Oh man, the bare bones of investigation. Bust out a flashlight and a notebook, and that's all you need.
We did not think far enough ahead to bring a flashlight.
Oh no!
No, so it was very dark and quite stupid on our parts.
It's so adventurous. I think the closest I can get to this is to say that I've been ghosted before.
Oh no!
But, yeah, no paranormal investigation though.
Well, PNW too. Also, this is something they didn't have Bob when we were there. They also have their own paranormal investigation club at PNW now. So
I've seen flyers.
yeah. So I mean, they're doing everything that we wanted to do after the fact, Bob.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any of this at the old Purdue Cal back in the day.
No.
Hung out too much in the studio, and that was about the extent of my excitement. So, questions on my end for you guys since Connor, you good now?
I was giddy, Bob.
I
but
know
yes.
when you were, and that's great. I'm excited about
I
that.
was
It's
jazzed
not
up.
often that he gets excited. I'm usually the one that carries it on, and he gives me his
They're
impressions.
talking about my culture.
I know, so this is the one time I sit back and give
right,
answers. That's kind of I get to give my responses, which is really nice to have the tables flipped. But so I got to ask you guys, as far as vampirism goes, and what we know as a vampire, in traditional sense, what is your favorite non-traditional vampire piece of lore out there? And that, for example, mine is the Boo Hag. The Boo Hag is my favorite piece of vampire lore. It's not traditional, like guy walks around in cape and sucks blood, but sucks air out of your lungs and can slip through keyholes. I think that's absolutely horrifying. So that's my example, but what would be your answers?
Well, for me, one of the things that I noticed in researching for the class, not in the case of the Banyama, but in other African vampires, there is a tendency for them to slough off their mortal forms and travel as balls of light. And that is something that I find incredibly fascinating, that it's going across different African cultures like that. And we don't associate vampires with light, we always associate them with darkness. So to have this as an element of a folkloric vampire, I find incredibly awesome.
That's so cool. That's a good answer, by the way.
Thank you.
It was a good answer. That's why I let you go first. Sorry, can you repeat the question, like
Your
the
favorite-
specification?
So think your classic vampire, guy in cape. Now what's your favorite alternative to that, but that still feels vampiric?
I don't know if this is far enough away from the traditional, because it's definitely not as far away from the traditional as Hysell's is. But the first thing that comes to mind is Anna Lily Amirpour's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. It's a 2014 film. Just the title, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, you're like, yep, that's a horror film. And it is. The twist, though, is that the girl walking home alone at night is a vampire, and she's awesome. She skateboards, and it's the whole film is in Farsi. Anna Lily Amirpour, the writer and director, she's Iranian, but it is literally illegal for her as a woman to direct a film in Iran. So she had to find a spot in California that she was able to pass off as kind of this. Well, I guess not all of it is. Anyway, so she was able to find some a location in California that's not readily identifiable as California. I'll put it that way, and filmed it there, and it's beautifully shot. Anyway, it's a and her and the central character also has this fascinating relationship with justice. It's a great film to analyze. It's every time I watch it, I'm left thinking about it for like the next hour.
I'm gonna put that on my list. I've never seen it, so
I highly recommend it. The reason, just keep in mind this question is like, why does she kill?
Sure.
And I think it's a fascinating question in that movie.
That's good. I'm gonna add that to my list. I'm all about it. My next question, and this one comes from the Bob After Dark community. This one it started off as a joke, and then it started into a whole conversation as how does a vampire shave? And then it broke into full-on discussion of being like, well, you see, vampires, weren't able to look in mirrors because of the concept of silver, blah, 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 blah. But the guy's question never got answered. And he's like, you're telling me all of why they can't shave, but you're not telling me how they do shave. So the question on the Bob After Dark community, we're going to start with, how does a vampire shave?
So, I mean, the old joke is two well-groomed vampires get together and shave each other.
Right, and that's what my assumptionable answer would have been that.
So, in terms of mirrors, in folklore, it's really interesting because in some cultures, the mirror does not cause them not to reflect. That was a very odd sentence. I apologize for it.
No, you're okay.
In fact, vampires will become fascinated by themselves in a mirror and stare at it for long periods of time, and that's one of the ways you can kind of protect yourself from vampires is to put a mirror out. So I guess it depends on where you're at. In some folk cultures, the vampire can shave because they can use a mirror.
Okay. Do you have a better retort to that, or are you going with the same answer?
I mean, I used to shave my own head, so I don't see why you need a mirror. Yeah. I mean, you can feel that there's hair there, right? So do another swipe.
Simple.
Have you guys ever been able to pull a correlation between the concept of the medical condition where people need to live off of blood, and then you look at the lore side of things? Have you ever found a correlation between the two of what's the real life? And I'm using vampirism as a very loose term,
right?
But the concept of vampirism and what we look at in folklore as a vampire, have you ever found a correlation between the two? That was the other big question on the fans' minds.
Not really. Usually what we can associate with disease-wise is tuberculosis.
Right.
Right, because that looks like they're wasting away in blood at the mouth and things like that. In folklore, though, you always have to die before you become a vampire. And with them being dead, that condition doesn't necessarily come into play,
right,
usually. So you'll have people who have really fine, upstanding lives, and then they die in a really mysterious way, or they commit suicide or something along those lines, and then they become a vampire afterwards. So that disease, not so much, but tuberculosis, absolutely.
Okay. My next question is, since the portrayal of a vampire has been asked, what is your favorite vampiric transformation scene in fiction?
Oh, wow.
Can I ask you to kind of define what you mean by that, so I can have time to think?
So, Lost Boys, Michael's sitting down and drinking the blood, and David's echoing through the ears as he's kind of hypnotizing him into becoming a vampire, and that whole scene always resonates with me as a great vampiric transformation scene.
Okay,
it could also be a drinking of the blood thing. It could have been.
Right. So for me, it would be the '90s Interview with the Vampire.
Ah, good choice.
When Louis becomes a vampire, and all of a sudden the statues and everything around him take on this kind of animated form. And it's showing his changed perception by becoming immortal. That's my favorite one.
That's a good one. And yours?
So this is going to be annoyingly traditional again, but so it's not Dracula because we don't see his transformation, but from the novel Dracula when Mina is transforming. So we also have Lucy, she's fascinating too, but she's more under his spell. Mina is legit turning into a vampire slowly. And then she goes into this phase where she can see, or not see, but she can hear the things that Dracula is hearing in this Voldemort, Harry Potter type of relationship. And anyways, her sudden usefulness because of her existing simultaneously as a human and being able to, and still having the sympathies of the human and still loving Jonathan Harker, and yet having this displaced this ability to be in some manner with Dracula when he's hundreds of miles away. I think that it's fascinating for the sake of its transformation of what's happening to her, not just physically, but metaphysically. I'm going to regret saying that. That's not the right word.
We could edit that
But
out.
anyway, thanks so much. But anyway, but also what it does for fiction, what Stoker was able to do as far as like the function of narrative and the ability of the characters to follow Dracula, because he added this curious element that he decided was definitive of his vampire.
I'm going to take a wild guess that you're a big fan of Dracula, the Bram Stoker story.
I am a big fan of Dracula.
That was more or less.
I think that's a great novel.
Well, it really is, and it's it's probably the most important vampiric novel ever written, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's probably more fact than opinion, but
yeah, I was gonna say that's a hard one to argue. I mean, you could say that you have another one that you favor, but
We have a text here from Jamie about, I know he referenced it, but the Bela Lugosi portrayal, early 30s that came out, the Dracula. And that's, kind of like a legendary film, vampire, but thoughts on, I guess they're just asking your thoughts on Bela's portrayal of, Dracula.
That was great. So the film, I'm not a huge fan of Todd Browning's film, but Bela Lugosi, I like Todd Browning, but so his following film Freaks is a masterpiece. But
I like Freaks.
one of the right,
Yeah, it's a good
there's a scene though in Browning's Dracula where our Mina, she's out like walking toward Dracula, and it's just a moment whenever he like lifts his cape and brings it around, and like that's when we have that element of Dracula, like this
Famous.
so iconic, that he like brings his cape up with one arm and like sweeps it around and hides himself. And that's the moment that we get it, and I love that. I love seeing the origin of these, these iconic moments.
For me, Bela Lugosi is a great vampire. I love him in Dracula. I think it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I love the Universal horror movies.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
watch them in October every year. Bela Lugosi as Dracula, though, I will go to a different movie actually really quickly and say that he does really great work as a straight man in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Yes, and that's you gotta get on my head, because my retort to all of this is Bela Lugosi in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is my favorite portrayal of Bela Lugosi as Dracula. It also has an incredible bat transformation sequence that I think is so underrated.
And the scene where he's coming out of the coffin and Lou Costello is, trying not to freak out is absolutely hilarious even to this day.
Yeah. I'm laughing because it's true. It's hilarious. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, period. Yeah. But it's that portrayal in that one where he's just kind of like, yeah, hi, I'm here and I'm the villain, but like there's a lot of insanity around me and I kind of got to take that in. It's good stuff.
Well, wasn't he was supposed to be, right, isn't the history behind that? He was supposed to play Frankenstein, it's a monster, right? And then he didn't want to do it. He wanted, because he fancied himself as a real actor, so he got the part of Dracula there. There's also a scene too, right? Can he see his reflection in one of the scenes?
In Todd Browning's Dracula,
there was a mistake there. They actually accidentally saw his.
Oh, really? I didn't catch that.
I don't know if that I probably saw or read that somewhere, so I got to look that back. But
I would find that surprising because they show it like 5 times. That his reflection's not in the mirror.
What do you say, Bob? Bury me in my cape.
And they did. Yeah. Supposedly.
I mean, his last film appearance too is Plan 9 from Outer Space, and he's walking around with the cape over him.
Yeah,
like that. And then it's Ed Wood's dentist, because
chiropractor, right? Or is it his dentist?
Either one.
Yeah, the movie Ed Wood's my favorite film of all time, and in fact, that's my favorite portrayal of Bela Lugosi is what's his face who played Dracula, and the name slips my mind, and I'm going to get married.
He won an Oscar for that too.
Yes, he certainly did, and it's slipping my mind. He died recently. Thank you. Not Marlon Brando, but it's the name's Martin. The name slips my mind, but you could look it up. Thank you, Count. I'm going to really beat myself up over that later. My next question is, and because we're getting
Martin Landau.
Martin Landau, thank you. Your favorite misconception of what a vampire is? Like, for example, mine would have been Twilight portrays these things as a very romantic-centric creature where the romance overpowers everything, which kind of drives me batty. All pun intended. All pun intended.
Thank you. We're going to end the show right now.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. The vaudeville king comes out and pulls me off from the side of the screen. But no, and for me, it's always been the concept that a vampire, and even people that are running in vampire culture today, they're more menacing than they are the romantic type. And I always felt like that's what drives me nuts the most. So what would be your guys' favorite misconception of what a vampire is? And it could also be like very simple of, this one particular movie really handled the concept of a vampire poorly too. That would work.
Shame them right now.
Shame them.
Do you want to go first on this one?
I really don't, but but I can if I have to. Okay, so I'll take this back to the class. One of the, one thing that's surprising to students is, sorry to step on your toes, but that's, before fiction, vampires were poor creatures, mostly people who were poor because, of course, they were in mostly illiterate societies. So that surprised a lot of students. As far as fiction goes, so I mentioned earlier just how prominent homosexuality, just queerness is throughout even the 19th century. But then specifically as far as vampires themselves, when we get to Dracula and he's walking around in the daytime, like,
how does he do that?
Yeah, he's not able to transform into a bat or a wolf, and that's basically it. He's still super fast and strong, actually. Like, they're not able to trap. Like, 5 guys aren't able to trap him. And it's daytime. So anyway, so that was a little bit of a jaw dropping, and they had to kind of recalibrate.
Sure.
For me, it's the vampire as a sexy individual, right? They're attractive, they're beautiful, they're unaging, and in folklore, vampires are really horrifying.
Yeah,
like they're bloated and blood is coming out of them, and they, depending on where you're at, they smell or they don't smell, and it's that is my favorite one, because every time there's this very sexy vampire, you're just yeah, but blow him up a little bit, give him a red face.
That doesn't sell movies, though.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't.
And that's why you preferred Angelus over Angel.
Yeah.
Angel is a very attractive man. I'm assuming your vampire Spike is better than regular Spike.
Yeah. I mean, Spike before he becomes a good guy is also better than...
I agree with you.
Yeah.
My Buffy fans out there are screaming at me right now.
Yeah, I know. I was stepping on a landmine.
No, you're okay. It's fine. The show's been over for a long time, guys. We could all have different opinions. That's to my fans. They're coming for me after this one. It's fine, though.
Huge Buffy fan base.
Last question is, what's your take on... Well, actually, I have 2 questions. It's part A, part B. Let's start with, what's your take on the psychic vampire in real life?
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, that's definitely a you question.
Do you believe in the concept of a psychic vampire, and what's your take on it?
So I think defining our terms is really important here.
Sure.
Do I think that there are relationships that you can have that can kind of suck away your mental health? And your
another suck
health?
away I get in there. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Hey, that one wasn't intended, folks. Zing.
Vampire joke again.
But that, I think, is real. Toxic relationships can absolutely do that. One of the things that I showed my students was a documentary, in quotes, I like to say, from the History Channel. It was a Monster Quest episode. And
I love Monster Quest.
it's a fun show. It's really fun. But there was this woman on there who was a psychic vampire, and she talked about how when she was in college, she collapsed and had a heart problem. And the doctors told her that she would have to get a heart transplant. And she said that she went and she fed off of someone, and then she was fine. But as she's talking, I could still see that she actually had a heart transplant scar. So it didn't cure the problem for her. And in that regard, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go with that. But the idea of someone like kind of feeding off negative emotions and getting a high from it, I definitely believe in. I've seen enough of those people in real life.
And for you?
I don't think I have a better answer than that. To the extent of just one person, I don't emotionally taking advantage of someone. I don't know if that really qualifies as psychic vampire, though. At least as I understand from literature, of someone who is able to some degree, have someone under a trance, having that power. And in that capacity, I don't believe in that.
Colin Robinson from What We Did in the Shadows is my perfect example of what a psychic vampire is. My second question is, and I ask all my people this when they come on my show, is how skeptical or believer you are. And this is a little different because are people running around with capes turning into bats? Probably not, but I can tell.
Bob.
Oh,
in front of me?
Sorry, Count. But I am well aware that there are vampire cults out there that still exist in practice within even Chicagoland. Yeah. You have all of those, but what is your take on what real vampirism is? Do you believe that there is a form of vampirism out there? And if you do, and if you don't, what's your argument there? Do you think everything that we've learned over the centuries of vampirism is all fiction, or do you think there's some truth to it?
That is...
I mean, I'll say that I don't think that... So I think I would question what it is we've learned over the centuries. So baseline answer, I don't believe that there is such a thing as vampirism in the context that we're talking about it. What we've learned over the centuries would be... I mean, that's one of the things we talk about quite a bit in class, that there are the people throughout history have seen real phenomena, have seen actual things, and then they have interpreted those in a particular way. And then the means by investigating this comes down to, like, how can we understand that interpretation? How can we understand what really did happen and separate that from the report? See what parts of the report are reliable and what parts are not.
Yeah, the French philosopher Voltaire and another French philosopher, Calmet, had a debate about vampires fairly early on. And Calmet, he looked at all the evidence and examined it rigorously and went through it and looked at bits and pieces. And Voltaire just rejected it outright. I would say, personally, I am a natural skeptic. I need evidence. And I mean, part of that is a lot of my training as a historian is I need evidence to prove something before I can accept it. I will say that when I look at the vampire groups of people that live in society now, what I see are, and this is not a judgment in any way, people who are disaffected and looking for a place to belong and looking for family and looking for connections. And I think they find that in each other. And I think that's actually a really beautiful thing. There are various disaffected groups, like punk rock is actually another one of those, like disaffected groups that have come together and formed a culture and formed a community. And I will never say that culture and community is not real, because it is real. It's very real. Are there aspects of it that I may not believe in? Sure. But that doesn't mean that people don't find value in it and take something of value from it.
Okay. Are you guys ready for my final question?
That was
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did say okay. Yeah, I'm good.
That's a really good answer, by the
Alrighty.
way.
Thank you.
That's actually brilliant, because people like to narc on other kin and vampire groups, and some of it's incredibly toxic. But occasionally, you find a really honest building relationship, and a lot of my fans and a lot of my research I've done over the years showed me that relationship could be important to a lot of people. And I appreciate you, an academic, saying that, because a lot of people, like I said, just mark them off as being crazy, and it's like, that's not a good answer.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. But over the years, my fans have harped on me about teaching them how to defend themselves and kill them, and killing the thing in front of them. Over the years in vampire lore and teachings, I've heard everything from you gotta light them on fire, decapitate them, wooden stake through the heart, silver bullet, sunlight, throwing rice at them because they might be inclined to counting the things. Garlic is a big one. Holy water, stabbing them with the wood of the tree the type of tree that Judas hung himself from. I don't remember the name of that wood, and I'm going to really hate myself later about that. But I digress. You have all of these things over the years that we're taught how to kill a vampire. What's the real way you guys think is the correct way to kill a vampire? How do we defend ourselves against those who look to feed on us?
I think it's got to be burning and scattering the ashes, right?
Burning and scattering the ashes. Every other time, every vampire case study that we look at, they go through various methods, like ripping out the heart, burning the heart. There's driving a stake through the mouth, driving a stake through the heart. It's always the burning that does it in the end. I mean, in one case, it took a letter from a bishop, but a lot of times it is burning.
I don't know why I find this so funny. Can you explain that story real quick?
Yeah, so there's a collection of stories of revenants from medieval England. And so revenants is a term that we use because a lot of times vampire isn't the term that's used by the people who are talking about it. And it was talking about this guy who was kind of coming back and causing problems for everyone, like beating people up and things like that. And they went to the local priest, and he was like, well, we should probably burn him, but I'm going to write to the bishop. And he says, hey, we should probably burn this guy's body because he's coming back, and that's a good way to get rid of him. And the bishop's like, no, I'm gonna write a letter forgiving him of his sins. That should do it because we don't want to desecrate his corpse. So he writes the letter, sends it back. They place it on the guy's body in his grave, close it up, and he stopped bothering them.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Count, if I could stop you with a letter,
I'm going
to write you a letter. Stop being a vampire.
The bishop was on the morning show last week, so we could call the bishop. It's as simple as that.
I need you to know that it never fails me when I get to learn something new in my field of work, because you've been doing it so long, you could sit here and just spout off random facts about random nonsensical things in folklore, cryptozoology, whatever. I've never heard that story before, and it is now my favorite way of preventing. If somebody asks me, I think I'm being attacked by a vampire, you got to get a letter from a bishop. I know what you're thinking. You got to get the wooden stakes. No. You just need a letter from a bishop. It's going to solve all of the problems.
That's it. Why?
I'm sorry. I love it.
I know, and I know Luke is probably long gone in bed, but he did have a text question, kind of a thing to tie the course one last time here. Why is it important, from Luke Miller here, to teach a class on vampires or paranormal subjects? Why is it so important we keep this alive here?
That's a great question, Luke. Whether you're awake or not. So Hysell and I are both really interested in the evolution of ideas.
Sure.
And the reasons why we think what we think, why people in the past think what they thought, and the connection between the two. With our particular class, it's a wonderful example to show how a train of thought can develop with various folklore in various countries through various time periods. We have these somehow, it's really difficult to track how it travels, how the information travels. But but ultimately we come to a period where now it's in fiction, and these ideas are being used for a totally different reason. They're being used to entertain rather than to warn people of actual, generally like plagues, diseases, actual issues. And then to see how those ideas evolve. They reflect their culture so much. I mean, Twilight is actually a perfect example of this, of how something where like a creature that used to be super disgusting once upon a time. Yeah, I mean, then in the 19th century, for a number of reasons, was still a foe. It was still a concern, a threat. But I mean, now, 21st century is, the we have a bunch of teenagers who have crushes on these vampire characters. There's so seeing the evolution of ideas, I think, is fascinating, but I think it's also important to understand the interchange between information that we receive and the information that we put out.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that, for me, is that most of history we kind of look at the upper echelons of society. I mean, that is a trend that's been changing for a while now, like starting back in much further back than I care to admit. But these people, we hadn't studied them for so long. They're the common folk, right? These are their beliefs. These are the things that they built their lives on. And if we really want to understand the past, we need to understand these belief systems as well as the grand political movements that we tend to track in history.
If I could add to it as somebody who teaches on a paranormal level, not as these two in an academic, but as an entertainment thing, something I harp on all the time is somebody talked about this at some point. Mm-hmm. There is history involved here. And a lot of times these superstitions legitimately made people believe things that shaped our societies. Yeah. You look at the art of chiropractor, like being a chiropractor, that all started because a guy thought he was talking to ghosts, and now people make their entire careers based off of it. Mm-hmm. There is some sort of logic behind why we talk about it, whether it's it's fable where we're trying to teach something, or maybe there's a case where some of these things actually existed or something happened that was very similar. And I just think it's important to not forget that there's aspects of history that are strange and unusual versus just downright disgusting or whatever it might be. That's from an entertainment standpoint, that's my answer, Luke. I didn't want to trounce on theirs by any means, but at least you got two different perspectives.
And he's still up. He would have heard the answer to the question, so he was curious, I guess, if we were going to answer the question.
Now, besides the concept of teaching classes, where can people find? Do you guys have blogs on this stuff? Or
by the way, I don't know if I saw that phone call. I saw a flash. So 219-845-1100. Call in right now. Get your question.
Yeah, while I'm doing the self plugs, you could call.
Oh, back. Wait, that might be right there. You want to take a phone
call? Yeah, we'll take it live.
Hello, caller.
Caller, you're on the air.
I saw that phone call. Yeah, I was wondering if I could have a mulligan.
A mulligan?
John? Yeah, that means a second phone call.
That makes sense.
The lingo of radio here.
All right, John. Let's get your mulligan.
Can the props run that by me again? That this guy had to be what now? By a letter by the bishop had to kill this guy. I mean, can you run that by me again? Because you know what? I'm still soaking this in. I mean, it's about 5 minutes since you said this already, but I'm still trying to digest it. So, can you run that by me again?
Yeah, sure. So the priest in the community, the people came to him, and they asked him to get rid of the vampire. And his initial thought was, okay, we should just burn his body, because I mean that's a very common way to get rid of vampires. But he went to the bishop because he was a good priest and he knew that if he didn't go to the bishop, he could get in trouble for it. So he went to the bishop. He's like, hey, I want to burn this guy's body. Do I have permission to dig him up? And the bishop was offended by this idea of him digging up the body. So he was like, you know what? I'm going to write a letter giving him an indulgence, forgiving him of his sins, and place it on his body so he knows he's forgiven and his soul can rest. And that's what happened.
Well, you know what? I tell you, I'm a pretty faithful Catholic all my life, and I gotta kind of, I don't know. I kind of have to laugh a little bit about that. I can see the priest's point, because the bishop is is his boss. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if necessarily the letter is gonna. What is your version of that? What do you guys think?
Can't stop a
you
man,
don't
can't
have
stop him.
or you don't have no opinion on that.
Well, I mean, according to the Chronicle, he stopped, so it worked.
That was
Well, I don't know. You know what?
first
I'm
case
going
of
to
a
be like
stern
Luke
letter.
now. I'm going to be opposite of Luke. I'm not going to be able to sleep now. You know, Luke, if you're listening, I know he's not. I know he ain't sleeping yet, but yeah, boy, I thought you guys are pretty interesting. Like I said, I'm glad you guys came on. So, all right, thanks for clearing that up. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Letter from the bishop.
Guys, I want to say thank you so much because I've always wanted to interview somebody in the academic world, but I've never really known how to go about it. So thank you for filling that dream. Like, I feel like I've hit that level of being able, as a career person, I've talked to authors, I've talked to, TV personalities and this, that, and another, but I've never been able to nail down a strict academic other than the time I interviewed a gentleman from Texas A&M who had the science behind ghosts, so I got that. But vampires and folklore and academics is something I've always wanted to cover.
And right down the road from us.
And literally my alma mater,
Yeah.
so that makes me feel very special. So thank you guys for coming on and being some really cool guests with really cool information.
Thanks for having us.
Do you guys have like blogs on vampires or stuff? I know.
Plug away.
I don't know. Some teachers run their own podcasts. I know that. Do you guys have anything you'd like to plug? Do you have a paper coming out that somebody could read?
Oh gosh, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about doing the thing in.
Yeah, we're talking about doing a conference. It's a Midwest conference on British studies. That would be in September. And that's local. Otherwise, I don't think nothing comes off.
The only thing I have is that the History, Philosophy, Politics, and Economics department has a YouTube page. And two of the talks that I've given are on that YouTube page. One is Punk AF. It's an examination of punk culture. Fair warning to anyone who's listening, rough language and some rough imagery. And the other is on the mythologizing of Jack the Ripper that I
That's a
did
good one.
with a really good friend of mine. He's an art professor at Pierce College in Washington. Also, fair warning, rough imagery. So...
Yes. Guys, beware if you go to that one. It's not going to be one of my Johnny Appleseed episodes. I'll give you that.
In your studies of the past Bob After Dark episodes, you didn't come across a Johnny Appleseed episode, did you? I think it's wiped from the internet.
Let's hope that never gets dug up and no one ever finds
The lore of Johnny Appleseed.
The time I thought I could find something paranormal out about Johnny Appleseed, I dedicated to the episode and I found nothing.
Oh, man.
Other than that guy was a total jerk.
That sounds like a great episode.
It's
that's
terrible.
That's so much of what academia is like investigating, trying to find something, and realizing it just isn't there.
Might not be on the. Did you ever put that up there, Bob, or is that gone?
I'm hoping it's gone.
Oh, okay.
I was like, there's got to be something. This guy had to have traveled with natives or something would have come up, and no, he was he knew how to land squat really, really well.
There you go.
And he was a really bad person.
So it's kind of a crust punk.
Yes, but on a worse way. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching. And oh, hold on, I lied.
I wanted to get this one more note, not vampire related, but our friend of the show, Art, he sent me a message yesterday, because we talked about our paranormal investigation of Club Cuyahoga in East Chicago, Indiana. We did that just a couple months ago.
That was a good time.
And he messaged me. He said, "Just want to let you all know we had a little gathering at Cuyahoga for my birthday. Happy birthday to Art. And my daughter saw a bearded man in the poker room and felt two other people there. My wife was sitting with me at the bar and saw a figure walk across the room where the business meetings were held." So a little update, Bob. Paranormal activity still going strong at Club Cuyahoga.
Bearded man, which one was it?
Oh, a ghostly bearded man.
I need three of us.
Yeah. So nice little update there.
The last thing I usually always make my my guests do is leave some sort of lesson or some sort of antidote to end the show. So do you guys have a piece of life advice for our listeners, an anecdote, whatever it might be?
Well,
Could be
actually,
a quote.
actually, I do. I am extremely skeptical. I'm very much an atheist. I've been very firm on on emphasizing the burden of proof.
Sure.
But I am also a strong believer that one should not judge other people's experiences.
You don't know what's out there. You know?
And also people's experiences are sacred. Anyway, yeah, so respect what people think, respect what people believe, and yeah.
Mine is much less deep. It's always cite your sources.
Oh, Luke loves that.
That's a
he
good
always
one.
cites his sources.
Listen, man, the MLA and the APA, I still have it all up here.
Oh, I do Chicago Turabian.
Oh, no! I forgot how to do that one.
There won't be a test after the show.
Oh, jeez. Oh, no. I don't remember that one at all. Oh, no.
That's so funny.
Now you're going to have school nightmares.
Thanks. I'm going to 100% have a school nightmare. I had one last night about a school nightmare. Now I'm going to have another one. Thanks.
Well, there you go.
Now, gentlemen, I just want to thank you for coming on. Count, do you have any final words for the audience this evening?
Luke thanks you as well. He just texted us saying, you guys were great. And he'll see you in class, I guess.
That is.
Does he get bonus points for connecting this all? Yeah, for connecting this whole show together tonight?
No, I brought a cupcake for you, Luke. You should have been here.
I invited him too. So, but you know what? Maybe I could take that to go for him. But you guys were great. Thanks for coming on, and we learned a lot here tonight, Bob. I feel like about my ancestry.
Vampiric lore is some of my favorite in the entire world, so it's really cool I got a chance to have this episode. So, folks, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, I just want to wish all of you good night and sweet dreams. To my mom in the other room when eventually you go to bed, I hope you have sweet dreams. And to my dad, wherever you are in the universe, I hope you're happy, comfortable doing whatever it is the hell you want to be doing. And to Tiff, I hope you have the sweetest dreams of them all. Good night, everybody. And remember, the two most important rules of Bob After Dark are not all wander or lost, and as above, so below. Until next time.
Memoriam Development.
Go.